Um, I am Minnie Thomas. I am from New Delhi. I was the vice chair of MGA for member development. Gold committee was one of the committees we had under member development. So I'm happy to moderate this session, the first one probably after Gold migrated to young professionals. So the title of this session is Embracing Young Professionals. And generally this session is all about out with gold and in with the new IEEE Young Professionals. Times have changed and so have IEEE Young Professionals. This session explores the exciting changes and developments that are taking place in the program and opportunities offered to young professionals. Many of the young professional programs and benefits are focused towards the needs and interests of early career professionals and revolve around fostering networking, professional growth, and technical development. Students and young professionals are the future members and leaders of the IEEE. So we have three speakers here. Timothy Wong, on my right, will introduce IEEE Young Professionals in the first 15 minutes. And then we have Timothy Worboys here. He will talk about engaging young professional volunteers and leaders for the next 15 minutes. And then we have Mario, right there. He will tell the story of my young professional friend, Joe. So let me introduce the speakers before we begin the session. And the announcement is that the questions will be after all the presentations are over. Please reserve your questions till the end, and you can ask them directly. We would give preference to the questions asked directly to the speakers after the presentations. You can also send the questions through your mobile app, which will also be answered later. And I would be giving you the QR code towards the end of the session. Okay, so Timothy Wong, the first speaker, he's currently the chair of the IEEE Young Professionals Committee and as member at large on the Publication Service and Products Board. He has had experiences in the power utility, water, and embedded system software industry. Timothy graduated with a Bachelor of Computer Science and Bachelor of Electrical and Electronics Engineering from the University of Western Australia with first-class honors and was valedictory speaker. Tim Worboys is Senior Software Engineer at LinkedIn. He is one of the 3 TAB representatives to the IEEE Young Professionals Committee and is serving as a Young Professionals Vice Chair for Leadership and Training. He works as a Senior Software Engineer at LinkedIn in Mountain View, California on GraphDB, LinkedIn's next-generation distributed real-time graph query processing system. Tim was a student at the University of Waterloo, graduating in 2012, where he completed 6 internships at various companies in North America. I don't know how he did that, 6 internships.
It's a requirement.
Okay, okay. The last, but the incoming chair, I believe, of young professionals is Mario Milicevic. He's a PhD candidate at the University of Toronto. In the area of digital integrated circuits, his research focuses on the design and development of integrated circuit implementations of low-density parity check decoders for today's emerging wireless and wireless communication standards. He serves as the Vice Chair of Products and Services on the IEEE Young Professionals Committee currently, where he reintroduced the monthly Young Professionals webinar series and also initiated the promotion of online IEEE career-based services such as Mentor Center and the Resume Lab. Locally, he serves as the chair of the Toronto Young Professionals Affinity Group, which regularly organizes networking and professional development events for early career professionals and students in the Toronto area. So we have 3 young speakers, and I hope we will have a very good session. So please reserve your questions towards the end. So Timothy.
Great. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for coming to today's session.
I like to occasionally move around, which is why I'm also holding a microphone in my right hand. This introduction, I guess, is a bit redundant because it's already being done by Minnie. Thank you very much for that. I also enjoy photography, finance, and networking. Surprise, surprise, with the networking bit. And I also do have a bit of a finance qualification as well, which I did after engineering. It's kind of quite fun to have all three different areas, and it really expands your view of the world. So really today I'm going to be talking to you about IEEE Young Professionals, and I'll talk a bit about the history and some of the products and services that we offer. Just as a quick indication, how many people here are young professionals? I would expect most, but if not, welcome. We really like to involve all IEEE members within young professionals. And really, the reason why we exist is to inspire, energize, empower, and engage IEEE young professionals to envision and realize their dreams. So this is really a fairly standard committee structure that you'll see in young professionals and student activities. There's a chair, past chair. We've got 10 regional coordinators for young professionals, some of whom are in the room, and we have a few past chairs in this room as well. And we have a Gold Rush editor-in-chief. I'll talk about that later. We have 4 vice chairs who look after 4 focus areas. We have society and board representatives. And we also have a student activities coordinator to young professionals liaison to bridge the gap between the 2 committees. But really to give you, excuse me, to give you an idea of where our membership demographic stands, I want to stress that this slide, the numbers that you see here with the membership numbers, is before the new young professionals criteria came in. So IEEE Gold stood for graduates of the last decade, and it was a I guess a status, I guess I could call it, that applied to IEEE members who graduated from their first professional degree within the last 10 years. Now, the new young professionals criteria has changed that to 15 years, and I will talk about that in a later slide. So it says 54,252. We currently estimate that that will increase to about 96,000 as of that change, which took effect in the new membership year. So last week, I think it was, on the 15th of August. We also have a global presence of over 179 affinity groups. A few approvals have actually come through for new affinity groups since those slides were written, so it's actually a bit higher than that. And most of them are, well, you've got a fairly interesting spread there. You've got about 70 in the USA, 15 in IEEE Canada, which is Region 7, 34 in Region 8, which is where we are today, 32 in Region 9, and 28 in Region 10. And look, I want to emphasize here that this is just not a name change. We're not just saying, okay, let's splash a new logo, let's actually just change the name. We're also looking at new ways and better ways of delivering products and services and benefits to our members. So 2 of our vice chairs are, actually, sorry, all of our vice chairs, my apologies, are in this room at the moment. So maybe I'll get you to wave your hand as I announce your name. So Jashil Pran Lau is the Communications and Marketing Vice Chair, and his role focuses on market development. Now, contrary to what people think about marketing, it isn't all about fancy banners, colorful posters, so on and so forth. There is also an aspect which involves analysis and actionable items on actual market data, identifying what members want, how we can satisfy those wants, and how we actually aim to achieve that. Now, leadership and training, that portfolio is taken care of by Tim Worboys at the front here. He'll be speaking later on. That focuses on volunteer development. And what we really want to do is make sure that our volunteers are well equipped with the support they need, the training and the resources to, I guess, understand the IEEE and really engage with our members. We also want to make sure that this experience as a volunteer is meaningful, that you have the support and training to really move up the ladder. Okay, and then Mario over there, products and services, focuses on member satisfaction. His group, he'll actually talk about that more in his presentation, focusing on new products and services to engage our members and keep them satisfied, but also giving that young professionals input into other organizational units. Robert Weiss, who is sitting at the back there, is responsible for strategic partnerships. This role focuses on partner development both inside and outside the IEEE, not only within IEEE organizational units, but also outside organizations and industry as well. So really, it's great to have these 4 different focus areas. We'll tell you more about it later. Just very quickly, the history of IEEE Young Professionals. It started well before I graduated, I can tell you that. So in 1996, at the section's Congress, there was a breakout session called The Recent Graduate, facilitated by Dave Kemp and Michael Van Chow. I've actually seen Dave Kemp floating around, so is he in this room? No, okay, I'll find him later. Look, this resulted in a recommendation which provided resources to establish gold programs. And look, in 1997, the Regional Activities Board, which is now known as Member and Geographic Activities, approved the formation of Graduates of the Last Decade, which we know as GOLD. And the Gold Committee Charter is approved in the subsequent year in 1998. Now in 2009, under the leadership of Adrian Pace, who was the then MGA Gold Chair, a new Gold vision and mission were developed to meet the IEEE Member and Geographic Activities Board goals. So really it was to align ourselves with what the rest of the membership side of IEEE did. And last year, and this is one of the most significant changes that we'll talk about, the MGA, so the Member and Geographic Activities Board, approved the name change from Gold to Young Professionals and a change in the way we classify our young professional members. So this is, I guess, a history or honor roll chart of our past chairs for your reference. Some of you may have seen this chart before. It shows the results of a higher grade member segmentation study. There's actually a separate pie chart for students. So if you've seen the students version, don't be alarmed, it's going to be slightly different. Now segment 2 is really a demographic that's been identified that relates to young professionals and younger members. They're connected to IEEE's vision, they want to be more involved, they regularly use and engage with social media, and their career services, networking, continuing education are very important. So this is a reasonably satisfied group. But then you look at segment 4, another group that relates to younger members. They want to be more involved. They don't quite know how. The products and services are a bit difficult to find and navigate. They don't feel as part of the community or invited to experience the IEEE. And so really, their satisfaction is one of the lowest out of those 5 segments. And that's 20% of the high grade membership, which is not an insignificant number. I'm just gonna talk a bit about the change from Gold to Young Professionals. So I mentioned before that this name change was approved by the MGA board last year. The name change and criteria were both approved, and the board directed all organizational units to update their manual. So, okay, fairly admin at this moment. Let's actually talk about why we did this. So how many people here, if we blindfolded you, you've never heard of IEEE, how many people here would understand what gold meant without any explanation? So maybe 4 people. Look, we've actually found that gold, as an acronym itself, it has an interesting ring to it, Graduates of the Last Decade. It didn't really quite resonate with the young professionals demographic. The running joke is that gold rhymes with old, and maybe in some ways that's been misleading in terms of the types of members it attracts. We also did some benchmarking, and we found that similar organizations to IEEE used the name Young Professionals. So we decided that it was perhaps appropriate to consider changing the name to make it more instantly recognizable, with the hope that members will be able to identify with Young Professionals at the sound of the name and start looking for Young Professionals products and services. They'll know where to find it. Now with the criteria, why did we move from 10 to 15 years? Why didn't we put an age limit? So some people ask that question. Well, age is actually quite a sensitive topic in different cultures and parts of the world. And also, in a practical sense, date of birth is not a required field. So imagine if we did implement age and we tried to actually somehow classify a young professional member. For the members who don't put in the date of birth, well, we're in trouble there already. Also, with the way we've changed the way young professionals membership is represented internally, it's not just a yes-no flag anymore. It's actually represented as a membership, like a shopping cart item, like if you add a women in engineering membership or society membership, you can actually see it when you go to the checkout system or when you renew your membership. So in the past, nobody knew they were associated with gold because it didn't appear anywhere on the letters or in the correspondence. It was just kind of like randomly they would maybe hear one day from the affinity group, you're a gold member, and they'll say, I don't know what that means, delete the email. So we really hope this gets addressed. Okay, so This is just for your reference. You may have noticed that a number of new, apart from the new logo for young professionals, we've had a number of outreach channels through LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter, and a number of different articles that have appeared in the Institute, the Spectrum, and Potentials magazine. And here's an example of that. So this is actually Jashil's area, communications to members. So we have a monthly newsletter that we started 2 months ago titled 3 Things You Need to Know This Month About Young Professionals. We want to keep it short and snappy. I know people don't have much time to read emails, but we really just wanted to have things come in threes and just familiarize our members with different young professional events, products and services. We've also ran a number of webinars to familiarize our volunteers and members with the name change and criteria change from Gold to Young Professionals, called Making the Switch. And if you look at the Institute Spectrum, Society Newsletters and Potentials, you'll notice that we've actually had a number of articles relating to the name change and criteria change. Also, I'll show you the links to our social media channels later in the slides. This is our Facebook page. Now, if you haven't liked it, we'd really appreciate it if you follow us and maybe engage with our events and give us feedback. This is our LinkedIn company page, which is very generously sponsored by LinkedIn. So definitely, if you're a user of LinkedIn, please join in and get involved. We also have a comprehensive webinar program which Mario's team organizes. So these are some of the webinars that have taken place this year, and you'll notice that there's a mixture of professional development, so not necessarily technical, so more the soft skills side development, as well as a mixture of technical type events. So for example, we've got a 6-part leadership excellence webinar series that has been recorded and made available online in the webinar archive. We've also partnered with societies such as Consumer Electronics Society and Women in Engineering to provide you with a variety of content. 2 other two career-based services that may also be of interest to you as individuals or to your members is Mentor Center. So Mentor Center is an online career mentorship tool for both mentors and mentees to really facilitate the connection and matching process and facilitate the mentor-mentee relationship. So that's available to high-grade members free of charge as part of your membership. And IEEE Resume Lab was launched earlier this year, so you can find online a suite of online resume and CV development tools for each stage of your career and job-seeking process. IEEE Gold Rush. Now, IEEE Gold Rush has been around for a while now. Some of you may remember IEEE Gold Rush as a quarterly PDF-based newsletter for our members and volunteers, where members submitted their news articles, announcements were posted for young professionals, so on and so forth. This time it has moved to a blog format to make it more dynamic and more friendly towards our current members' needs. And if you have any contributions, please send them to goldrush@ieee.org, or definitely, at the very least, go and visit it at www.ieeegoldrush.org. Now, if you want more information, these are the links to our Facebook page, Twitter feed, LinkedIn company page. And if we can help you in any other way, please email us at young-professionals@ieee.org. So that's it from me. I'm going to pass the microphone to Tim Worboys. Thank you very much. You've got, okay. Oh, yes, sorry.
Thanks. Okay, hi everyone. We're going to change topics a little bit here. I'm going to give you basically some tips and tricks on how to motivate young professionals in your affinity groups, how to get them into your sections, and how to get them to become more engaged to keep your affinity group around and vital. So here's a little bit of a blurb about me. Really, I'm actually an engineering manager now. I got promoted like 5 days before I came out here. So I was a manager for 5 days, and I'm like, bye, going to California, or going to Amsterdam. So I actually have a pretty young team that's under me, so I have a little bit of experience with this. And I've worked at LinkedIn for 2 years since I graduated University of Waterloo, and here I am. I guess the most important part here isn't, who I am, but it's actually building the connection with the audience. And that's sort of something that I'm going to underline here, but I never actually explicitly say, is building the connection with who you're talking to, your young professionals, is going to go a long way in keeping them engaged and keeping them motivated. Same as it's going to go a long way, hopefully, in making you guys listen to me and making you not fall asleep. That's sort of the same goals there. So I'm going to start off by telling you what a young professional is in the sense of this talk, then about how to motivate them, the benefits of having young professionals in your group, and then creating a young professional affinity group and how to do that. So the IEEE criteria we just talked about, it's 15 years since your graduation, you can opt into it. However, I'm not going to go with that today because most research doesn't go along those lines. It talks about the millennial generation, so that's what mine is going to be around. So those born between 1982 and 1996. So basically 18 to 32 years old. Basically, these people grew up during the rise of technology. And I'm going to tell you a bit about who we are so you can sort of understand where we're coming from and why we are different. Because a lot of people do find it very hard to work with young professionals in this modern day. And personal computers were around everywhere. Electronics were the norm everywhere, and we became addicted to technology. These sorts of things made us not think like we had previously. We have multiple threads of information going on, and sitting still and doing one thing at a time is almost impossible. We had video games. They provide us with constant feedback on everything we're doing, and young professionals now feel like they want to be told how they're doing, whether they're doing a good job, whether they're doing a bad job, and how they can improve all the time. They want feedback at a rate that's far higher than any other demographic out there. They grew up during the world of the internet, so they had constant access to information, and this is the whole multitasking thing came out of this. They had access to information. I did my homework watching TV, listening to music, and playing video games at the same time. And social media became a huge thing. We don't use email to communicate with one another as much as previous generations, or letters. I think the last time I sent a mail letter was like in grade 6 for pen pals. So we're very open to sharing and willing to share. So everything is out there on the web, you can find it. And this whole openness has sort of changed who we are. And we changed the way we connect with each other, and it's always given us access to the latest news. Twitter is there telling us what's going on within seconds. We don't have to wait till the next morning for the paper to be printed or the news to come out. We have cell phones, so we're also always connected that way. People can get in touch with us no matter where we are, and we kind of expect that of other people as well. Home computers created flexibility in our lives, so we didn't have to go to the library to do our assignments. We could just look it up on Wikipedia or look it up on some other website. Instant messaging became a huge thing, and the worldwide communication became free. I have friends in Australia, in Canada, all over the world that I talk to on a regular basis that I may or may not have met before. And it allows us to have large international networks where we can easily go between places and know people. Web 3.0 was the big thing. So everyone is empowered to generate content, and it creates a worldwide audience for everything you do. You can write something today, and tomorrow there are millions of people around the world reading it. It made us feel sort of more important than we probably were. Career changes. Most people don't expect to stay in their job for more than 2 years as a young professional. That's like completely changing the way that everything has been done before. And there's tons and tons of research coming out here. How do you manage people who don't expect to stay in your job for more than 2 years? It's very challenging, and it's very different. And you'll have several career changes, not just jobs, but also like going from engineering into finance, into management. And those things are expected to happen about 5 times within your lifetime. Our elders included us in basically everything that we did. We were never really told what to do. We were given the opportunity to say what we were wanting to do, and we sort of expect this of everyone else around us now. Our managers come to us and ask us our opinions rather than just saying, go and do this. And that's really made a big difference on who we are. And we were basically always told we couldn't fail. There was like participation ribbons in everything you did when you were growing up. I don't know about where you are, but in Canada, it's actually impossible to fail. If you like fail the term, they're like, oh yeah, go back to school, do a 2-week course in the summer, and you're done. It doesn't matter how you do during that. So it actually became impossible to fail during the time we were growing up. And because of this, we actually have pretty high expectations. Most young professionals expect to get a promotion every 2 years, regardless of what the economic times are like. And a lot of this is probably wrong, but we also have to learn to be able to work with people in these cases. Many people find it hard to work with us, but we're really not. We're just different. And if you kind of figure out what the differences are and understand who we are, it'll allow us to change us from the lion yelling at its cub to a nice, calm group of people being able to talk and work together to build an organization. So motivating volunteers is really an unsolved problem. I don't think there's anyone who out there who claims to have it solved. But here are some tips and tricks that I found to help you to motivate young professionals. So these may not all work for you, but try some of them out, try them in different cases. Really the underlying thread is build a connection with your volunteers. If you understand who they are and where they're coming from, it's going to make you be able to do a much better job motivating them and engaging them. So set expectations. We work really hard to succeed. If you tell us, like, this is what I expect from you over the next year, the young professionals are going to work really, really hard to get there. They don't want to let other people down, and they want to be there. Provide regular feedback to them. So the whole video game thing. Be open, honest, and constructive with them. If they know what they're doing wrong and how they can be doing better, they'll often try to use that feedback to try to make themselves better. And thank your volunteers. Because of our whole participation medals and everything growing up, we really expect like certificates and things like that as we go along. So say thank you and let us know that our efforts are being appreciated. Avoid arbitrary rules and deadlines. Everyone hates arbitrary rules and deadlines. And I mean, rules and deadlines are okay, but I just explain why they're there. If you're like, oh, this thing for Sections Congress needs to be submitted 3 months before, there's no real reason. I know very many people who submitted their talks for Sections Congress 3 months before because they didn't understand the reasoning behind it. If you tell them that like, we need it 3 months before so you can do this and this, it'll make a big difference on getting the results you want. And so some civil rules are very welcome. And listen to us because our parents included us in our decisions, so we want to be heard like everyone else. And we have many great ideas. So if you are listening to us, it'll be able to help you invigorate your section and get some new blood and new ideas coming out that will help grow your section. So we have opportunities to help others. This is the single biggest motivator for young professionals, even bigger than money. Is if you have the opportunity to help someone, you're willing to sacrifice a lot of money. And that's actually surprising because I don't think anyone in the generations older than me talked to them at work. They're like, why'd you choose this job? It was the highest pay. Other people, the young professionals are like, no, it's because I was able to connect talent with opportunity. I'm able to help other people. And that's the biggest reason they're choosing these reasons. So if you can show how what you're doing in the IEEE is helping other people, it's going to help your volunteers feel more motivated towards the cause. Create a community where people can be a part of it. So do things like go out for lunch and go out for dinner, have people there so that they're part of a team. And if you're part of a team, you don't want to let the other people down. So if you can have that sort of connection to each other, it's going to make a big difference. Respect people's times. Young professionals are professionals, and they are very, very busy people. They're starting their career, and they're juggling a lot of things. So if you can sort of figure out what their time constraints are and find out work that fits into those time constraints, it's going to make a big difference. We love to help other people, but we have a very limited amount of time and a lot of things that we're trying to figure out. Do we want to be doing some more technical activities? Do we want to do professional development? Or do we want to help run an organization where we can help others? It's really hard to decide. So inspire other people in your section to be leaders and lead by example. If you can include some young professionals in your succession plans within your sections, that's going to feel great to the young professionals because they'll know that they have the ability to move up and to be able to do new things. And being able to do that is going to make them feel a lot better. I think that's basically everything. So who here has a Young Professionals Affinity group in their section? Awesome. And who doesn't? Why not? Sorry to put you on the spot.
Probably one of the only young professionals in my section.
What section?
East Tennessee.
I'm pretty sure that's not the case. I hope it's not the case.
Working on it.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about it.
Yeah. So, and someone else back there. Do you know why you don't have one? Yeah. So I mean, it's actually really hard to keep these groups around. I know in the San Francisco Bay Area where I'm from, we have 3 sections, and only one of them has a Young Professionals Affinity group. I've been trying really hard to get the other ones back up, and it's difficult, but it's not that impossible. Actually, no, I'm not going there yet. But the things that these Young Professionals Affinity groups can do for you are going to be amazing, and that's what we're going to talk about next. So hopefully this will inspire you to take the time to be able to figure out what the benefits are and how to go out there and get one. If you have time, if you want to talk about it, I'd be happy to help you and give you some ideas on how we're starting to get new affinity groups to come back alive. So what is the benefit of having a Young Professionals Affinity group? Basically, diversity is one of the biggest, most important things in any organization. If you have a diverse member base, you're going to have diverse opinions coming out, and more opinions means you have more ideas to select from, and that just means you're going to have better ideas in the end. Young professionals have a lot of technological literacy. Like I was saying, they're used to social media, other sorts of apps, And they can use these apps and things very easily to get your section invigorated and get more young professionals in. And keeping these new members coming into your section will help you keep the organization we've built so hard, worked so hard to build, stay alive. And young people are the future, that's what I was just saying. So they have high energy and enthusiasm, and they're eager to learn and achieve everything. So if you can get these guys in, set them in the right direction, they'll start running, and they'll take your mission, they'll take your vision, and they'll build it into something even better. So they have fresh ideas that will modernize the IEEE and change how we operate. And these are probably one of the things that's going to be, in my opinion, the most important, because the world is changing oh so fast, and the IEEE is having a hard time keeping up with it. And getting some more nimble, younger members will help us do that. So tapping into the network of the young professionals is what I'm trying to say here. People are willing to help mentor or help young professionals in any way they can. And being able to have those young professionals in your group will allow you to tap into companies, organizations, connections of that group, young professional, in ways you never thought possible. I'm working with the Global Humanitarian Technology Conference, and people had asked for like sponsorships and funding. They weren't able to do it. I went out and asked 2 groups. They both came back and gave me like $5,000 each. So it's really easy for a young professional to go out and say, hey, I need some help. And people are willing to work with us. We're flexible. Our schedules are pretty adaptable generally. Most young professionals come at a time that in their life where they don't have that much stuff, and work is generally fairly flexible. So you can get us in to help your organization, and we're eager to learn and help wherever we can. So we have significant contributions to grow the IEEE, and we're very dedicated to causes that we believe in. So how do you create an affinity group? You basically just need to submit a petition. It's really short, and you need 6 signatures of voting members of the affinity group. So you need to find 6 young professionals in your affinity group. Submit this petition which says, hey, what are the 2 events that I'm going to run this year? And then you need to have someone who's going to lead it. The leader does not need to be a young professional at that point. And if you can't get a young professionals affinity group, you can actually do like a joint young professionals and women in engineering affinity group. So you just need 6 people who are either a woman or have opted into the young professionals group. So it's really easy to do. And it's going to make a big impact on your section. If you want to find out more about this, I think Jashil is talking about this tomorrow in the Learning Lab at 7:15 a.m., which I know is really, really early, but hopefully you can make it there. And if not, we can help you out. So I guess my titles got deleted from the slides, so I'm not really sure what these points mean with that. So I think, yeah, what I was talking about today was understanding your young professionals. That's going to make the biggest impact. And if you learn what inspires and motivates them, it's going to make even more of an impact on you and keeping them engaged. So create your affinity group, and the benefits of young people will follow. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Great. So thank you, Timothy Wong, and thank you, Timothy Worboys, for introducing the new young professionals and talking about how we can grow ourselves as volunteers. And so today I'm going to tell you a story. Tell you a story of my young professional friend, Joel. But before I do that, I want every young professional in the room to stand up if they're within the first 15 years of graduating from their first professional degree. Good. Now, so everyone who is not within this criteria, I want everybody to stand up who is going to opt in to the Young Professional Program through their IEEE membership when they renew. This is just by clicking the Young Professional checkbox when you renew your membership.
It's free.
It's free. It's totally free. We should see everybody standing at this point. Good. Now, raise your hands if this is your first Sections Congress. Look around the room. Okay, these are the people you need to connect with. Okay, all right. So, we're all very excited here. We're all excited to be here. You may sit down now. get to know each other. I've had the pleasure to meet a lot of new friends, or who I hope will be friends for many years to come. And so, I hope we can all continue to share our stories with each other over the course of the weekend. So right now I'm going to share, though, a story of my young professional friend named Joel. And in that story, I'm going to sort of describe the products and services that we offer through the Young Professional program. There we go. So my name is Mario, and I'm a PhD candidate at the University of Toronto. And I currently serve as a chair for the Toronto Young Professionals Affinity Group, as well as a vice chair on the Global MGA Young Professionals Committee, where I've sort of managed the portfolio for our products and services that we offer to young professionals. So right now, here's a story of my young professional friend, Joel. Now, meet Joel. He's 24 years old, okay? And basically, he's a very successful software developer at a large global software company. And he currently manages a team of 6 developers, where he actually helps, he also helps and recruits and trains new employees. And very often, he travels to trade shows, like downstairs, to speak about his company's products and services. So this is today, okay? But let's take a step back and let's look at what happened just 2 years ago. So 2 years ago, Joel was in his final year of college, and he really wasn't sure which career path he was going to take. He knew, though, that he didn't want a typical desk job, or whatever that means. So, he basically, he also knew that he didn't want to move in with his parents. He loved the luxury of living on his own. So he did something after graduation. He just went traveling. And he basically spent a lot of time meeting new people, okay, just to see where the road would take him. So he spent a lot of time meeting new people. And he realized that he actually likes making people's lives easier, okay? So he wanted to reinvigorate that passion that he had for software development when he was in school, to do something with software development with a people-friendly focus, okay? So now back in college, though, he was actually an IEEE student member. And really what he did is when he returned from his travels, he renewed his IEEE membership, okay? And he also signed up for the Computer Society so that he could improve his software skills and hopefully find a job. I mean, that's why most students join the IEEE, right? Now, after watching a few technical webinars offered by the Computer Society, and if you're a member of the Computer Society, you'll know that they have one like once a week, he started applying to some jobs. And he actually got a temporary contract job as a software developer at a very small company. Now, he didn't feel engaged by his work, okay? So really, he wanted to be involved in the people side of the business, okay? So he wanted to unite his passion for technology and working with people. So basically what happened was he received an email invite to participate or to attend a IEEE Young Professionals skills workshop that we offered actually last year in Toronto. And so you can actually see Joel right there, this photo. Basically, at this workshop, he discovered new ways to be a more proactive leader, okay? And he realized, how it's important to build trust among your colleagues in order to succeed. So he actually was really engaged by this workshop and really wanted to learn more. So he then discovered that IEEE Young Professionals also has their own webinar series, okay, with various topics that Tim showed earlier. But basically, the topics are on leadership skills, oral communication, networking, all combined with a different flavor from the regular society webinars that you might see. But we also do offer some technical talks in between. And so he also signed up for the IEEE Mentor Center, which is a brand new product launched late last year, which basically, as Tim Wong mentioned, it helps us establish meaningful mentorship relationships. So I, as a mentee, would go and search for a mentor, okay? So Joel did that, and he found it very useful, and he was actually able to connect with senior software developers and managers. Now, he also used the IEEE Resume Lab to polish up his professional image, his resume, build a cover letter, so that he can make himself more employable. Now, the Resume Lab also offers it's a complete tool suite, which offers many fantastic features, like you can build your own video resume, you can basically go through mock interview questions, so it's a really useful feature for young professionals. And he was actually so confident that he could finally transition to a more engaging career. So basically what he did is he used the IEEE job site to set up some interviews. And basically it was the entire products and services portfolio that was part of the Young Professionals that gave him all the tools he needed to tackle his interviews. And so just within several days, he actually landed a great job at a global software company, and he now works with people to develop products for people. And so he basically applies the skills and the techniques that he learned through the IEEE Young Professionals program in his everyday work, where he gives talks at trade shows and also recruits and trains new employees. Now, it was only just a matter of time before he wanted to become a volunteer. So in Toronto, we actually host several networking events every year. And here's a video that Joel, my friend, actually made following our event. So I'd like to thank Joel for sharing his young professional story with us. And Joel is actually currently the digital production manager for our IEEE Young Professionals Toronto affinity group. And I want you now now that you've heard about all our products and services, to help us spread the word, okay? Go back to your sections and share the information about the Mentor Center, the Resume Lab. Inform your young professionals, your students, that these services are available to them. And you can check out our YouTube channel, where you can find all of our past monthly webinars, as well as on our IEEE TV channel, where you can find the webinars hosted as well. So I'd like to thank you for being a great audience, and hope you enjoy the rest of the Congress.
So thank you, all the three speakers. I think it was a good mix of three presentations. So let's move on to the question and answer session. Three speakers are here. So questions? We have the hand mic, right?
Hi, Joseph Esau, Dell section. I'm wondering what kind of suggestions you have, especially since I've noticed that with with a lot of in a city with a lot of young professionals, kind of like competition for other young professional groups, and young professionals only have so much time in a day to go to meetings or have meetings, happy hours. What do you think some suggestions are to help out with that?
I think you shouldn't try to compete necessarily with all of them, but offer something valuable. Okay, so what is great about the IEEE community, right? Offer something valuable to that group of people, and they will come. Yeah. So just being able to connect with your technical peers is a great reason, and there are lots of these meetups happening. Okay, and there's no reason why you can't host your own meetup. I mean, meetup.com. There are lots of them, and we've tried it before. Yeah.
You use Eventbrite, I think, for Toronto.
And Eventbrite is great. So I don't think you should try and just focus on bringing people together. So that includes reaching out to all of your contacts through Sammy, but also just publicizing it on Facebook and just using social media to as much as you can, really.
It was interesting that in one of the previous breakout sessions earlier today, someone mentioned that sometimes for them, lunchtime meetings were preferable to evening meetings because of their family commitments or other commitments that caused clashes generally throughout the week. So definitely, I would encourage you to try and gauge what works for your members in your section. There's no one-size-fits-all solution, which is why I can't necessarily give you a blanket answer, but feel free to also experiment with different times, different types of events for your members.
So I guess some of the advice I have, I took my section from about maybe 5 or 10 people coming out to our events to about 120 within a few months when I was there. The thing I say is challenge the status quo. People always told me, like, Monday events, they never work. We put our first event on a Monday, we had 120 people without trying. So don't be afraid to try new things. Go outside of the box, reach to new people. And I also found that just networking events don't work. Have a speaker plus networking. If they have a reason to come out and an interesting topic, that's going to give you some sort of differentiator that other people don't have. So we had speakers from LinkedIn, for example, on how to use LinkedIn to create your professional network. And then after that, we did an hour of networking. So that's one of the big ways you can do it. I also think one of the other things we do is we always invite the more experienced members to come, because the chance for young professionals to network with older members who have more experience, who know more about their career, is one of the things that most other groups don't have the ability to do. Most of the other groups that are out there are just young member groups or just older member groups. We have the whole power of the entire IEEE network and a lot of great experienced people that you can pull in to use.
Yeah, so just to reiterate what Tim Worboys just said, if you look at who comes out to networking events, it's people looking for jobs primarily. So have distinguished speakers or distinguished guests show up who are managers, who might have those connections, maybe not for the purposes of hiring, but just so that they can talk to somebody who is experienced and you can reach out to your entire IEEE section for distinguished guests. And you'll be hard-pressed to find somebody who will not want to do it.
Yeah, try different events too, and try having things in the background. So we sometimes have recruiters in the back of the audience, so they have. So we did an event at a circuits company, and at the back of their auditorium, they had a few of their recruiters. So if you were interested in working at that company after hearing the CTO speak, you had the chance to just go and talk to their recruiters right there. And people love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and just event diversity is also very important.
Yes.
So not always running the same type of event is key to keeping people interested in what your group is doing, right?
Absolutely. Asun is actually the past chair as well of MGA Gold. Sorry to put you on the spot there.
2007 and 2008.
That's right.
Hi, once again, I'm Soon Wan from Boston section. I just want to add on this discussion because as you guys have seen that there's a lot young professional community have provided all the careers tools, services, the mentor service, the resume lab to actually help the young professional to kind of secure a career, a job, or helping the graduating student a job. But there's one point that you should recognize that we also keep talking about providing value to our young professional. right? But what the value is. But I think there's one pitch that I would like to suggest. When you bring it back to your local section, where you talk to your student member, the young professional member, especially the graduating student member, that, right? IEEE will provide the networking opportunity, right? Right? Most of the school will help students to get their first job because the school, one, it can publicize their program, right? So the school will help them to get their first job. But the school will not build up their networking. The IEEE actually providing that kind of networking opportunity for this graduating student and a young professor to get together. So as well earlier, I don't recall which team presented. Usually young professionals change their job every 2 years, right?
That's him.
Yeah, right? So that networking will help the young professional to land the second job, their more ideal job. So that is kind of a message where you go back to your local section, talk to your member that way. Because I know that young professionals are very good. They provided a lot of tools to help the graduating students and the young professor to land the job. But I think most of the school will pretty much help them to get their first job. But IEEE definitely can help them to get their second job, which is actually their dream job, perhaps. Thank you.
Soon, you mentioned a great point about students and connecting with students. So that's one thing that we're really striving to do is get in touch with the students who are about to graduate. So fourth-year students, those students who are in their final year of university, who are looking for jobs, because we actually lose a lot of those students. If you look at the number of student members that we have versus the number of young professional members that we have, you'll notice that there's a steep drop. And so basically what we want to do is we want to maximize the retention of students, okay? So we want students to renew their, what used to be a $30 membership to a significantly much more expensive membership. But we hope that they will recognize the benefits of the Young Professional program. And so we really have a lot of products and services that will keep them engaged, we hope. And really it's up to the affinity group to reach out to all the student branches in your section, inform them, hey, we have an event coming up. Invite the student branch, invite all the students in send emails to the universities, and most of the universities are happy to forward event invitations to their students, and that's a great way to get new members as well. So we found that working with student groups has actually been very successful. And we also have other programs like what's known as STEP, so the Student Transition and Elevation Partnership, which gives young professional affinity groups $500 on average to host an event with the aim of promoting students and retaining students and showing what the benefits of higher grade membership are. So, STEP.
Yes.
Yes. So the question was, is STEP sponsored by Young Professionals? The answer is yes, it is.
Yes. Now, we noticed that some sections don't have young professional affinity groups. That doesn't mean that your section can't also run a STEP event. So sections can also run STEP events. And in some cases where the section is very large geographically, you can also run multiple STEP events in smaller areas. So the funding is very flexible, and we encourage you to use it. So,
Just out of interest, how many people here have heard of STEP or are aware of the? Oh, okay,
Good.
most of the room. Okay, great.
Good. Yes.
No, I don't.
We're recording them.
I can.
No, it's okay. One of the things, and thank you for your slide, one of the things that I've noticed as well of recruiting is the sometimes not having the most realistic expectations on job turnover. With the young professionals, how are you helping to manage that expectation level of changing jobs every 2 years? Because it does depend on the industry you're in, because you have some projects that are going to last 2 to 5 years. So how are you all helping with that along the way?
So I guess they're looking at me, but I'm actually really bad for this because in Silicon Valley, no matter what age you are, you change your job every 2 years.
Again, it's industry dependent.
Right. So in
Yes, it
Silicon
is
Valley,
industry
it's
dependent.
very rare for anyone to stay at a job maybe more than 4 years.
In the power
So
industry,
average
it's
is
not
2.
every 2 years. It's actually a bit longer than that with the life cycle.
I think also like the Mentor Center, the new product, the Mentor Center product will allow people to maintain relationships for longer periods of time. And so hopefully that's one way of facilitating changes when they need to happen. But also, I guess through the various events, you can get in touch with, other distinguished guests at your events to see what their experiences were like.
Yeah.
Something good to have on your webinars along the way.
Oh, sure.
Your industries, things are going to be a little different.
Right. I think a commonly asked question is what length of time is the right time to stay in a job? And one of the answers I heard was that when you stop learning new things. Now that could be, I think they said as a general rule, if you still don't learn anything new by 4 years, maybe you should leave anyway. But don't hold that against me. That varies from country to country, industry to industry. Look, I like that suggestion. We'll definitely take it on board. Our webinar series program is always continuing to expand. And if anyone here has any other ideas that you would like to suggest, then definitely feel free to contact us. I'll leave some of my business cards on the table there if you want to get in touch with us.
Any other questions?
You mentioned that funding is available for young professionals. Could you elaborate on that?
So
Did
yeah,
you
the
mean-
only funding we have available for young professionals
Not
right now.
general operational day-to-day
Is the
That's
step
the
event.
section's responsibility.
Yeah. So the step events, which are if you're running an event between it doesn't have to be between young professionals and students, but with students, we have the ability for you to apply for some funding to cover some of the costs. It ranges depending on where you are, what your event is, how many people you're going to reach. It used to be limited at 500. Now that cap there's still a cap, but it's less visible to the outside world.
But in terms of general funding for young professional affinity groups, it traditionally comes from the section.
Yes, so
And
for day-to-day operations
yes.
from the sections.
I think I just caught myself actually just saying YP. One thing we're really trying to do, I think we've all done a pretty good job of not saying it, we're trying not to say YP. Okay? So by saying YP, we're going back to the gold model where we don't know what it stands for anymore. So I encourage you all to continue saying young professionals. I know it takes a little bit longer to type, but
It will eventually become a habit.
Exactly.
Especially when you talk to outside or people who are not volunteers, they may not know what YP means. Maybe it's another acronym they'll just ignore. Hopefully not. So by calling us young professionals, I think the name should be fairly self-explanatory over YP.
This is more of a comment than a question. What I have felt is, and this is not only for IEEE Young Professionals, but for other entities also. But what happens is, we want to attract talent or attract resources or attract new people to our organization as such. And one of the places that we try to attract people is through our websites. But if you take any of the IEEE websites, an ordinary person will understand nothing. Because we use all the synonyms, acronyms, and then terms like section, councils, areas, regions. So at least with IEEE Young Professionals, where we are actively trying to hunt down people into, not hunt down, but yeah, kind of pull people, attract,
retain.
pull, retain, yeah. People, we have to make sure that, our website reflects an ordinary person's perspective in language, content, and related
want to talk
things.
about that?
Yeah, so actually one of the ways we're working on tackling these problems at the young professionals level is I'm working on creating a leadership portal, which will hopefully give you some of the things like acronyms that you need to know, what a section is. We're going to have a wiki page with all sorts of things that you need to know. How do you plan events? What are the things you need to do when you're recruiting new people? What are the job responsibilities for each of the different titles, so chair, vice chair. And also have a open discussion forum where you can communicate with other leaders within the area, all around the world actually. So you can have conversations and saying, I'm having problems with this. So we can also actually see what your problems are and hopefully help you fix them.
I know we are in search of content right now. So I think we're open to accepting content from different young professional affinity groups to, if you have any tips or tricks, lessons learned, et cetera, anything you wish to share, even just posters or marketing materials that you think this was effective, yeah, share it with us and we'll host it on the
share
wiki,
with everybody else.
just to get everybody's creative juices going.
And
Please come talk to me. I really need more people to help with this.
These sorts of systems are great, and I think it works best when people participate. So I think with your help, we can really make this happen and help each other out globally. It's really exciting. Also, when we think about how we engage with members, we always try to, I think it's very easy to sort of gravitate towards the volunteer world and, use acronyms like STEP, TISP, so on and so forth. But if you were someone who's not an IEEE member or even an IEEE member that's not actively engaged within the volunteer community, that's probably total gibberish. It probably means nothing. So we sort of try and frame it like this. What does the member want? What are they thinking? What actually makes sense to someone who has not had any background in our initiatives or events when we try and advertise it and when we go through the development process? That's something I encourage you to do. So sort of try and take an outwards perspective towards what things look like outside of IEEE and outside of IEEE volunteers.
Thanks, Tim. Hey, I just wanted to comment on the funding question and hopefully put some concerns to rest. I'm the chair of the Springfield section in Massachusetts, and from a chair's perspective and the other executive committee members' perspective, we are anxious to have young professionals volunteer and offer their time. So if you are interested in doing something like this, there shouldn't be any problem with the section finding the money. If you're willing to organize an event, your section would probably be only too happy to give you the money to do it. That's our attitude in our section. I mean, unless its section is just broke and doesn't have anything. Most sections have a bank account. They get money from the IEEE every year, and they're supposed to be funding activities like this to encourage this kind of participation. So you just have to show the initiative, and the money should be there.
I say that's a good point, but I also say, from my experience, we actually ran all of our events last year without asking for money. We actually ended up with $2,000 extra. So it's actually not that hard as a Young Professionals Affinity Group to run these events without any extra money. If your section can give you a float to be able to do your operations on, and you'll sometimes end up short, sometimes end up ahead, it's really not that difficult. And hopefully the leadership portal or other young professionals around the world will be able to help you figure out how to do these things.
Where did you get your money?
So we charge money for the events because if you have an entrance fee, people are more likely to show up. You have less no-shows, and people also see more value in it, so they're more likely to come. It's one of the big things that I have been saying to people is, I mean, if you charge $5 or $10, people are going to come anyways, and they're actually going to see more value, and they're more likely to come to your event after signing up for it because they said, oh, I actually spent $5. I don't want to lose that.
The same can be said about membership. If members see value, if people see value in an IEEE membership, they'll renew it, whether it's $5 or $100. If they don't see value in it, maybe they'll spend the $5 on beer or coffee instead and not renew.
An alternative to charging for events is to seek sponsorship.
Yeah.
In Toronto, we offer 3 tiers of sponsorship, so $250, $500, and $1,000. And we just change the promotion of that company's logo so on the displays that we have at our events, as well as social media and how many times we mention their name in posts. So many companies are keen to take that on, and the personal, for example, is always happy to be involved. So I think reaching out to sponsors is also really good because it gets them in the door, and it's worked well for us.
Yeah, we also got sponsorships too. It's one of the harder things to do when you're starting off, but after you get your events and stuff up and running, it's going to be a lot easier.
And we're hoping that the leadership portal will have a template for a sponsorship proposal that you could send out to prospective sponsors.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Any other questions out there?
Well, you don't have to organize the event by yourself. You can collaborate with other affinity groups,
Yes.
especially get we involved.
Yes.
You can get sponsorship easily.
One thing that's worked out really well, I can speak to my experience in Toronto because we recently held a Canadian conference on electrical and computer engineering, and we hosted a networking events for participants at the conference who weren't from Toronto. And they loved it because we collaborated with WE, and basically we hosted an event very close to the conference venue. And so we had, out of the, I think, 300 people who participated in the conference, we had around at least 100 come out. And out of that 100, I'd say 80 of them were not from Toronto. So it's a great way to engage IEEE members who are not in your geographic area.
I know there are a few groups that are combined women in engineering and young professional groups, like New Hampshire, for example. I believe that is still the case. So definitely, even structurally, you might even, if you don't have enough members, for example, you might consider combining it with women, young professionals with women in engineering, for instance.
If I may add to that comment, I'm from Washington section, by the way. So what we used to do in the past when I served as a gold chair, we used to run events with Northern Virginia and Baltimore and DC, and they were great success. I mean, every time we throw those events out there, you know, it was just everybody was involved, and they've always been successful. So that's just something to, you know, just give you an idea of what you can do. You don't have to always do it by yourself.
And I guess on our leadership portal, we are hoping to have lists of events from past sections. But one thing that I encourage you to do is submit articles to Gold Rush about an event that you had. That's a great way to, one, get your, you know, spread your section's name, but also encourage other affinity groups to organize similar events, or maybe, you know, maybe there's some collaborative opportunities there. So it's really simple. It's a blog format. You know, within 24 hours, your article can be up and live. So we really encourage the use of Gold Rush for volunteer news.
Hi, you had mentioned your leadership portal. Is there any intent to go ahead and link that to the Center for Leadership Excellence?
Well, that's definitely an important discussion we want to have. I've actually been in discussions with Dan Code when he was at the Center for Leadership Excellence chair, well, back 2 years ago. So we definitely haven't forgotten about Center for Leadership Excellence, and I think that's a great discussion to definitely take offline.
Yeah, thank you for that suggestion.
Yeah, I think the idea is that it would be great to be able to. The only thing is the Center for Leadership Excellence isn't as dynamic as we want to be, which is, I don't know if I went to the tips and tricks for motivating young professionals in the last session, but he was saying that young professionals like the dynamic content with speed. So it's trying to find a balance there.
It also eliminates one more administrative step because we can manage it
But look,
ourselves.
it's definitely not out of the question. I mean,
definitely.
we're always open to collaboration, and I think that's one of the great things about being part of the IEEE in such a large organization. There's so much to tap into. Are there any other further questions we could perhaps answer? Otherwise, what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave my business cards on the front table there, so definitely feel free to pick one up if you want to contact me outside of this session. I'd be more than happy to help, and so would my team. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, just want to thank all the three speakers for a wonderful session and for a wonderful audience. The QR code for this session is 1550. 1550. And we repeat this session tomorrow from 10:15 to 11:30. So if your friends who have not been able to attend, or if you want to attend it once again, you are most welcome tomorrow at, I think it's in G102. Tomorrow at 10:15. So thank you so much for your presence, and thanks once again. Bye-bye.